Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked. Brad and I are continuing the top 100 games of all time. We got three more to go two more before we get to the actual top 10. And we got some bangers. We got some bangers to talk about. For this segment, this is actually actually nope, never mind. I was like, because I have four new ones in this segment, and I was like, I wonder if this is where on average where new games like would show up because of the hype
Right.
that they would kind of like skyrocket to the top third. But as I'm looking on my past years, that's not the case at all. Like this is the most new ones I have really ever, at least in the past like 5 years
My
in one segment.
sorry. My segment. This is the one of the first segments of this whole list that I don't have a new one.
Oh, okay.
So I have four that went up, six that fell. Um, Two of these were in my top 10 last year.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I have two that fell. So, I mean, whenever you have four new ones, it's hard for other stuff, but two that rose and one that stayed the same, which is
Yep.
pretty nice. So, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? My number 30 was a game that I actually showed you the other day, and some very, very positive news is this company is actually, well, I don't know if it's a company, but it's actually getting like I don't know, maybe like a not an update and
A
not really a
reboot.
remake or a second printing, not really a reboot either. It's I think it's just like streamlined content, which I would in the board gaming world I would say is like a patch almost. Um but it did rise. It was 61 last year and 22 the year before, and this definitely coincides with my type of feeling of gaming lately, and that is Reichbusters, because fuck Nazis. Let's
Mythic
actually kill them in
games.
real life. Um, what'd you say?
Mythic games.
Yeah, ignore that. Ignore that part. Actually, this was when Mythic Games was good. Well, actually, were they ever good? Because all of their games always had issues, and they always had to release like second edition, or not second editions, but like update packs. But you would get the update packs, and it would be free. Nowadays they would charge you $600 to get the update pack. Um, but yeah, this is like I know there's a Wolfenstein board game, but I feel like this captures the feeling a lot more than probably that one does. Uh, this is a cooperative game where you are picking a scenario or an objective to go through, and that's a horrible picture.
It's not very
Uh,
clear, but yeah.
but you play as just one, a character in a squad that is going into a uh like a layout. It's essentially a dungeon crawl and killing Nazis. And the feeling that this game evokes, because they do a really cool kind of like stealth sleuth operation until you make enough noise and then the alarm's blaring and then all the soldiers are coming at you. It really captures that feel of those types of video games where you're like, you know what? I mean, because you don't even have to be stealthy, but there's a lot of characters who benefit from that. But they do that element of kind of like enemy notifications or enemy awareness. It's like, oh, they're yellow, so that means they hear something, so they're kind of gonna go check it out. But then they could be on high alert, which means that they're gonna alert other people, and they're all gonna swarm in on you. That I've always enjoyed and have not really seen it in any other game. Like, there's not really any board game that has that. Oh, or like, do you want to try and do this whole operation quietly?
Right.
Because there's a character that, I mean, I think it's actually the girl down there, but where she mainly uses knives and you can run in and do a bunch of combos where you like open up a door and then they're like, huh? And then you like kill one. Because you killed one, you get to go and kill it. You like get to cleave and go kill another. So you can wipe out an entire room without making any noise. And it's like, well, but if you fail, then they're all on high alert and then they come after you. So the card play has that dual card play that like Fireteam Zero or Gloomhaven has. And it's just pure chaotic fun with a lot of agency on how you want to tackle an operation. Um, Ton of content. Like you can do the smaller base operations, but then the one that we did whenever we played was like their big mega missions, which I really like that there's both. It's kind of like that's their campaign, the smaller ones where it's a smaller subset of tiles and stuff, but then you can really just have a bunch of, I mean, that's probably what this picture.
Looks like it.
And
Looks big.
it's like the slew of characters that you get are all over the place and they all play and feel a little bit different. So I really enjoy this one. I'm excited for kind of like I don't even know who's doing the new content. Monolith? I can't like there's someone who's gonna be redoing it, but I would need to look it up. But yeah, that's my 30/30 Reichbusters.
That's a good one. I like it. I've only played it one time, but I had fun
Yeah.
playing it.
I would never say like go out and get it because it's a lot. It's a lot of like content and it's
Mhm.
kind of a bear to set up. But if you're ever in that mood for these types of games, is a really solid one to jump into.
All right. My number 30 is a game that was 2 years ago was number 11. It was 13 last year, so it dropped a little bit. It's just because it hasn't been played this year, but it's still a super fun game. This is one that kind of caught me off guard because I'd heard people talking it up a few years back when it came out and decided to jump in, and it turned out to be a super fun game, and that is Whistle Mountain. um,
Whistle.
the cover and the name did nothing for me with this game. Um,
Yeah.
but I kept hearing like all these people just put this in like their top tens of the year for that year, and which it was what 2020. So,
Yeah.
but then so I went and picked up a copy and I learned how to play it, and I'll be damned if it didn't hold up. It's like
Mm.
um, you are like trying to build stuff in these mountains and everything, and you said there's these different layers you have to do because you have to build these scaffolding things, which are those gray things, and your worker placement are not the meeples that are over on the right there. Your worker placement are your there's like a blimp, hot air balloon, a blimp, and like a zephyr or something like
Yeah.
that you'll lay down, and they're different sizes. So you lay them across the scaffolding and stuff, and then if you cover up resources, you get those resources. So that's how you resource collect. And then you eventually will build machines, which are the little gold shaped things on top of the scaffolding, which give you benefits if you land your ships on them. So you could take advantage of multiple machines. If you laid one across two of them, you could get both those things. The thing is that this water, as more machines get built, the water rises, which was kind of a unique thing, I thought, because they start down here at the bottom and it keeps getting higher. So as it keeps moving up, if a machine gets even partially covered, then that machine is no longer functional. So you're trying to build up
Yeah,
constantly.
usually electronics and water don't mix.
Right. And you're trying to get these workers over moved from or moved over to here to get, because they usually start over here. You're trying to get them moved them around, and trying to get them as high up here as you can because there's different rewards. There's these gears or different like upgrades you can have to your player board, which they show over here. The little gears.
Mhm.
It's got resource collection. There's all that stuff. This was one that there was a couple of odd decisions in production that we've talked about before. Like the board is not a fold board. It's like four pieces. It's a puzzle board. And I don't know what the point of that was necessarily, but the board fits together in four different quadrants like a puzzle. And then the stacks of stuff where they have you put the stacks out on the board, the stacks are too high sometimes. If you're playing a game around the table, somebody might not really can't see some of the things that's right next to it a lot of times. I mean, it's an easy fix. You just put that stack just off the side of the board.
Yeah.
But but no, this one it has action cards. There's just a lot of cool stuff with it. It's minimalist art, but it's still just a super fun time. And you get
Yeah,
negative
this
points. Your
one,
animals, your people fall into the water, and if you can't save them or rescue them, they're negative points at the end.
yeah, it's this isn't in my top 100. I know it was at one point. For some reason, I just never get this one played. But I have an insert for it, I think. If I mean, again, I can't even remember if I have an insert.
I do, yeah. I got the folded
Um,
space one.
I think that's the one I had, or maybe I ended up getting a wooden one because I don't really like folded space. But yeah, I mean, this one is still in my collection, even though I haven't touched it. It is incredibly solid. I was trying to see if there was a playmat or something for it, and nothing pulled up immediately because that would fix a lot of issues.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was talk about a solo expansion for this. I think you
I think
have
it's
to like
print and
P and
play.
yeah, I think you print and play it, but it never came out retail. But apparently it's decent. I've just never printed it out.
Yeah, this is a good pick. I really like this one. Real quick, yes, Reichbusters is getting something called Reichbusters Reloaded, and it is done by Monolith.
Okay.
So, yeah, look into that for what it's worth. All right. My number 29 is one of the two that fell, but not really all that much. It was 24 last year and 28 the year before. And this one is probably going to stick around up here, especially because I have confirmation that more content is coming, which is great because this company's bread and butter is this game, and that is Role Player
Yes.
Adventures. I think you had this on your list a while back, maybe
Yeah, it
two
was a
segments ago.
couple of sections ago. It was 47.
Okay. Yeah. So this one is including role player, but I'm not kind of stating both because I at this point just consider I know they are completely different games. Like this is a narrative driven campaign game, and the other one isn't a Euro, I guess, dice worker placement, uh, or dice drafting character creator. But you can make a character in role player and then jump into this one. I have done a full series on the channel for Role Player Adventures if you want to go see that, and I've also done a review over the expansion. Um, but the expansion I did with my girlfriend who had never really played any of these kinds of games, and instead of playing role player to make characters like I did for the original campaign, we just picked precons. And honestly, I'd actually go that route. This like instead of doing the whole rigmarole of making a whole character and role player, which is still cool that you can do. But if you just want to jump into the adventures, then just pick a precon and you're gonna be set. But this is kind of D&D light. It's one of the best recommendations I can give to a lot of people who are just coming like maybe coming away from D&D or might be intimidated by D&D just because there's a whole lot that goes into it. And this is going to give you roughly that exact same feel with a little bit more, not necessarily on rails, because there is a lot for each campaign that you can do, but there's like it's still a structured story. Every session is going to be a book, like an adventure book that do connect, but they're kind of like their own little one shots. And the dice play of this game, I think, is very straightforward, even though you get pretty busted by the end. It's not it doesn't really ramp up in difficulty. You actually just become so powerful, which is kind of how D&D works anyway. Like once you're hitting level 10, honestly, you're pretty powerful for especially certain builds, and level 15, it's like, well, what else do we do in D&D besides go and fight gods? Um, but even though you have an answer for almost every situation, you're still involved the entire time. It never becomes kind of oh, what's the point? We're just gonna win, at least not for me. Like you still have to use your cubes to be able to guarantee certain colored dice. If you don't want to do that or unable to do that, then you have to randomly draw from the bag, and you're still going to have weaknesses, even though you can probably figure out correct ways to get the results that you need. You still might take damage, or you're just it's never a sure thing, even though you're most likely going to succeed on every skill check or combat. I still find it completely engaging. I think the writing and the stories for this are completely serviceable. I wouldn't say they're bad by any means. Um, but yeah, there's just a ton of discovery within this game, and I thought the expansion was done extremely well. I liked the background mechanism that they had, where you kind of picked a role. We had your character, but then you pick like a background, whether it's like a duelist or a my whole thing was like an animal tamer, so I had a shit ton of pets, and that was prevalent the entire campaign. It was constantly asking if you had a certain type of job, and if you didn't, you missed out on a bunch of stuff. And these are short enough campaigns that you can completely replay them. And I think for a lot of campaigns like Fate Forge or this one or even Divinity, you didn't spend a year trying to finish it. So whenever
Yeah.
you're done, you're like, you know what, let's try again. Let's play different characters and make different decisions. And then you'll be able to see the branching narratives, which I mean, games like, I mean, Aeon Trespass Odyssey, it's like, oh, there's a bunch of narrative decisions that you can do differently. It's like, yeah, this took 2.5 years to finish.
Yeah.
Like, this is my playthrough. Like, that's my world right there. It's kind of like playing RPGs. Whenever you're like done, you're like, okay, well, you can make different decisions. Nope, nope, that was 80 hours of gaming. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it. I think this is a fantastic kind of like lightweight, family, casual campaign game um, that is also affordable. So my number 29, Role Player Adventures.
And it's heavy as hell too.
It is heavy, and
Physically heavy. Physically heavy.
yeah, yeah, those books add up, and I do have confirmation. I think on my It's either on my discussion actually on YouTube or on my video on Board Game Geek from Keith Majika. Is that his last name? Keith
I can't
Keith
remember how you say it.
Machka Macha.
I say Keith.
Yeah,
Underworks Keith.
old Keith. He did confirm that more content is coming, so which is really cool. Again, I don't know if I want it to be more of like a Goldpax's secret or if I want another big one like this because kind of like with Fate Forge, it's like I would much rather it be a big campaign versus
Hmm.
like offshoot one shots. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know. The offshoot one shots I feel like should be like, oh, do you have this expansion? It gets incorporated into the main story, so you could choose to go and touch the expansion stuff, but you don't have to versus it being its own thing. Um, but the way they did it here, I think is way better than the way Fate Forward is. The Goldpax's secret is like I think thousands of years before the events of this one. But what's really cool is if you play this campaign first and then you play the expansion, there's little like I guess Easter eggs where you're like, "Oh, that's related to the main campaign." That's done narratively way better than the Chronicles of Khan expansion. I don't remember what it was called. So,
Clash of the Immortals, I think.
Clash of the Immortals, yeah. That while that's a good still system, like a good game, narratively, I actually that's what makes me upset about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, be that as it may, Role Player Adventures is my number 29.
All right. Good choice. My number 29 was also 24 last year, so it dropped 5 spots. It was 25 the year before that, so it's kind of hanging right around this area. This is one of my, I can't say it is my favorite worker placement game, but it's one of my favorite worker placement
Oh,
games.
okay.
It came out 10 years ago. They haven't put out anything for it for a long time, but it's still just so clean, fun, fast to play. That is Raiders of the North Sea.
You know what's so funny? Every time you or like Dice Tower guys bring this game up, I check out so quick. Like I think so. Not that I think little of this game. I just think almost nothing of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh.
Well, this one, like the base game of this gets played out pretty quick, but if you have the Fields of Fame and Hall of Heroes expansions to add to it, that adds a lot more decisions and a lot of other stuff to it. But pretty much, I mean, because this and Champions of Midgard came out the same year, but they're different styles of games, even though they both have worker placement and stuff.
Yeah.
This one is has that deal where the board is seeded with meeples or Viking meeples already of 3 different colors, but then when you place a worker, you take that action, and then you pick up a worker and take that action. So it's one of those games, like in worker placement, generally you're placing a worker, you take that action, and that's it. This one, you get 2 things on your turn, which is nice, but then also adds that overlying element of, if I take that worker, that's going to leave that spot open for my opponents. And so it also brings in that extra layer of decision making in the competitive game, just to try to keep, Seth needs more workers. So if I take that up, he's going to drop right there and get it, so it's like, I need to, play it smart. Maybe he'll take it off next time, and then I can get it, so
Yeah.
all that stuff. But you're hiring crew, you get victory points for a lot of different things. There's for people that die, there's like a Valhalla track. There's all these different tracks that you'll score points on at the end of the game. But you're going to gather workers. You're going to, or crew, you're going to gather resources, and then you can sail across the waters and pillage and raid different places. And then you gain rewards and blah, 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 all that stuff. The other 2 expansions just add like sideboards that add more stuff you can do. But this was the first one because at this point, there's so many damn games by Shem Phillips in these different parts of the world. Like, I quit after Paladins. I haven't played a single one of them after Paladins. But
Viscounts is really good.
yeah.
And then he went on this fucking like coke fueled kick with the South Tigris series. Wanderers, I felt, was neat in theory, but it just felt way too open. Where I don't know. I always felt like I was floundering in that game. And Scholars, I was like, look, what the fuck is this game? Like, I don't know. Like, it was like color theory, linguist the game. Linguist? Is that like about languages?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, no. And I know the new one in that trilogy of South Tigris is coming out, and I'm like, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, this one was the first one because they came out with a solo variant for that, like an official solo variant for this game, but it didn't come to retail per se. Like, you had to purchase it from over in, I think, Poland, I think is where he's from or whatever. Okay. So like, I ordered it from Poland. It's like a, I don't know, 16 card solo AI deck that I got, and it lets me play it solo too, along with the expansions and all that stuff. And it's I don't know, like I said, this one's been out 10 years, but just having all the different decisions you can do and the extra gamesmanship on top of it still just makes it one of my favorite worker placement games.
I really do need to try this one again. Because it has been a hot minute since I've played it. There was something about it though that didn't sit right with me, and I feel like it had something to do with the turn order, and like that having a huge play. It could have just been the games that I was playing, but I don't know. It's like this one and the first one in the West Kingdom.
Shipwrights, or was it Explorers?
No, it was no, because there was Paladins of the West Kingdom, but the one before that one.
Architects.
Yeah, Architects I also didn't really like vibe with, but Paladins and Viscounts worked a lot better for me. So I don't know.
Well, and if you don't like Viking stuff, they have the Raiders of Scythia, which is this game just rethemed. I mean, there's nothing different with it hardly. It's just this exact same game. You're just doing different stuff. So nice. Yeah, that's my number 29.
Cool. All right. My number 28 is new to the list. I put this one in just because it is technically the newest, but honestly, you can interchange them because they're pretty much the same game, just rethemed. And I just got a sexy insert for it that Bradley made for me, and that
It
is
took a long time too.
yeah, Myth. Well, not, I guess that you didn't technically make it for this one. Yeah, but you made it for Pantheon. So Mythic Battles, Pantheon, Ragnarok. I didn't want to make any more work for your daughter, who's just probably riddled with schoolwork.
That's all
It's
right.
like I'm just now gonna be like, you know what? Here's one. I absolutely love this system. Also, Monolith, two. Well, I guess Mythic Games originally had their hand in this,
Yeah.
and then Monolith took it over. Thank God, otherwise we never would have gotten our content for this one. Um, this one is super high up, one just because of the sheer amount of uh like skirmish matches that you can create. I love the concept of gods battling one another within mythologies, and the system of this one is one of the best kind of skirmish systems that I have seen. And it utilizes dice. It's dice resolution for combat, and it's one of the greatest like dice systems I have.
It has some learning curve to it though. For some reason, when I played Pantheon, and I've only played it the one time,
Yeah,
but man, everybody around that table was having such a tough time figuring out like how the combat with the dice worked.
yeah.
Like it's confusing. Once you get it, it clicks, but it's like it's tough to figure it
It's
out.
yeah, it's so weird that because the overall gameplay is pretty straightforward because what's really neat is whenever you're drafting or they have an app that you can use that will randomly generate your army because you have a certain number of points and gods are worth this many and then you can have monsters and then heroes and then you can have just troops like cannon fodder troops. All of them have special abilities and special actions that they can do, but pretty much at any given time you have a hand of cards that will let you activate them. So you'll have each god or each character will have a certain number of cards that will go into your overall deck, which is awesome. I think that that's really neat because if a ability for a particular character is super powerful, they're not going to be activating all that much. They might have two or three cards in the entire deck. Uh, but then you have Art of War cards that you need that give you like extra bonus actions. Like you can spend Art of War cards to draw. You can spend one to, actually filter through your deck and find one you need, or you use them to activate abilities. So it's a limited resource. But the point of this game is to either kill the opponent's god, which is very difficult to do, or get enough of these runes in Ragnarok or Umphalos stones, I think is what they're called in the Pantheon one. You need to get enough of those to your god, and that's another way to win. So I love the fact that there's two win conditions that you could build for. You could build for high ass damage that uh, you're trying to just go out and kill the opponent's god, but then there's other characters that they're entire like one character is like super fast and doesn't get like bogged down by difficult terrain. And last time I played this, my buddy had that, and I was like, I gotta kill him because otherwise you're gonna be able to run and grab all these stones, and I can't get to it. So there's just a lot of thought process whenever you're actually drafting your team. But like Brad was saying, when it comes down to the combat, you have a certain number of dice that you roll, and they're technically custom. I mean, they are custom dice; they're not D6s, but they're not like different dice. It's not like Hoplomachus or something where you have
Right.
different colored dice. But it's so weird in that they're pretty much D6s. Kind of, there's blanks and stuff on them, but it's like, oh, the defense of this god is a 9. And it's like, okay, well, clearly I can't roll a 9 on a six-sided die, but you roll and then you keep dice off to the side and then you re-roll. You have like a second roll phase where then you roll again and then you add the dice together. And it's such a completely unique, overly, I would say, kind of convoluted system, but I love that mathing because you can kind of push your luck a little bit. You can decide, okay, do I want to re-roll these? Do I want to hold them off to the side? Like, how much damage do I want to try and do before um before deciding to do your second re-roll? And I don't know, that kind of decision making works out a lot better than just, oh, I'm rolling a bunch of D10s. I'm looking for nines and tens. Boom. And that's what I got. Because chances are you're not going to be doing massive amounts of damage to gods, but you're still going to do one, you know. And like with Summoner Wars that we were talking about, I would rather do a little bit of damage every time than no damage. I don't like the all or nothing kind of thing. It makes me feel better. It's like, yeah, damn, I could have done two damage, but I still hit you. And the reason why that matters in these games is because whenever your heroes, monsters, or gods take damage, they have like a health tracker on their board that goes down. And as they take damage, they might lose an ability that they can't do. It lowers their defense, might lower their attack. Some heroes lose the ability to move. So there's actual repercussions for taking damage. You might not be dead, but it's like, well, that character took enough damage. He can't move, so he's effectively out of it.
Yeah.
But then there's other characters that it's like, oh, I can pull him to my side. There's just a lot that goes into this. I absolutely love it. And that insert for Pantheon, while it took what 2 weeks to print or something, a week of full ass printing, whatever it was.
Yeah, a couple. It was about 3 weeks after I.
Oh God.
Yeah, but it
Yeah,
was because I wasn't doing it like all during the day because I was at school and stuff. So
right. Yeah, but I mean, it's sexy as hell. It was very intuitive. Like I really
yeah.
had no complications putting it together. So hopefully that allows me to get this game to the table a lot more. And I think Ragnarok had some updated rules. I haven't played either of them enough to be able to tell you exact. I know there are differences um with Ragnarok that are pretty much if you're combining both, because you could easily take Tyr as a god and Ares as a god and have them fight one another. And then Isfet is about to come out, so Egypt is getting thrown in. And I know they're not done after that because they did a poll on what they want to do next. I think Japan was the highest one. Oh, come on, dude. Oni, like that's like perfect for this. You're coming around to feudal Japan themes. I can't remember what the options were. All of them would have been cool, but I think Japan makes the most sense after Egypt. But yeah, well, I mean, which I know nothing about Egypt. Like I know like two gods in
See,
that.
I'm more Egypt than I mean I know quite a bit of Egypt stuff.
Nice.
Uh,
So yeah, this one's a blast to play, and my number 28.
All right, good choice. My number 28 was on your list. I want to say last time. It was 36 last year, so it did rise. Um, and this is another game that I printed inserts for both of us on.
Ah,
And that is Marvel Zombies.
nice.
Um,
It was last time. It was actually 31.
okay. Uh, this one, we had talked about this when you were talking about it. Like the zombie side games in general, I'd kind of just like lost interest in. I never did play Black Plague, so I didn't really. I just heard it was a better version of the other zombie side. There was
It
all
was.
these. There was there was all these different things about the original zombie side series that didn't make sense, like the hit order when you're and stuff like that, which house rule. But anyway, so I wasn't even going to jump in on this at all. I was like, okay, I've already got Marvel Champions coming, in everything. I was like, do I really want another huge ass Marvel game with a system that I don't necessarily care for? Then I kept hearing decent stuff, and then when you follow the page, I think you're getting like inundated with, oh, this got unlocked, this got unlocked, this got unlocked, and then I was like, damn, there's so much crap out for this game and everything looks really cool. So you and I both decided, well, and what the turning point was is that local game store that gave us the opportunity
Yeah.
to pay it
Yeah,
in
that was like
sections.
before stretch goals, like stretch pay was a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Because I mean, otherwise, yeah, I would have just done that like I'm doing with Massive Darkness. But it's like, yeah, that local game store was it allowed you to he would pledge for you,
yeah. It was a
and
retail pledge or whatever.
yeah, so that was
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah. So that made it kind of was the deciding factor. I was like, okay, do I just pay? I don't really didn't really want to pay $700 right off the bat.
Right.
But I was like, oh, if I pay 300
God,
here
was
and
it $700?
after
Was it
shipping and
three?
everything, it was about
Was
700.
it
So
almost $1,000?
I know,
What are we
but
doing?
I
What the
know.
fuck are we doing, man?
Well, and about 250 of that was that monstrous Galactus
Yeah.
miniature that's like
Oh
2 feet
God.
tall, 2.5 feet tall, whatever, and it's uh,
And then we got a Godzilla coming for
of course,
Cthulhu Death
of
May
course,
Die. I don't
because
have
we don't
any
have enough
room
plastic.
actually.
but
I'm in the process of buying a house, so hopefully I will
right,
have the room.
right. But yeah, so what was interesting about this and the reason it intrigued me so much was because you play as the zombies and there's this whole hunger aspect. We talked about this earlier, where you actually get powerful, more and more powerful as you go, until you have to eat somebody to cure your hunger.
And that's such a
Um,
cool system. They do
it
that in
is,
Cthulhu Death May Die, like where it's like, I'm closer to dying, but yet you don't feel like you're not beaten down by the fact that
yeah.
you're
You
taking
want to be
damage.
going insane in that so you can get more powerful.
Yeah, and this you kind of want to be going hungry, but then it's detrimental because if you don't end up eating someone, then you start taking damage.
Right. And see, and this is up this high, and I haven't even played the other version where you play as the actual heroes against the zombies. I
Yeah, I
haven't
haven't
played that
either.
one yet either, so I don't know how this. I mean, it's just gonna be different scenarios, but because you won't have the hunger track on that, so I don't know how that'll
No,
change.
you have it's a different yeah, it's a different thing. I don't think you take damage though. That'd be kind of weird. But there is a different
Yeah.
meter.
So, but yeah, this one was bunches and bunches and bunches of minis, but if you can find a good insert, that saves you a lot of heartache and gets rid of all those plastic mold uh, trays and
Yeah,
stuff.
like it sucks with these kinds of games. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the inserts. But it's like there's no all in one, you know?
Mhm.
Like it's like it condenses it for sure and makes it a lot easier to pull out those trays and set it up, but it's like you look at like the Mythic Battles, which actually condensed I think it was like 8 boxes and condensed it to four. Um and this one I think I was also it got rid of all those small boxes
It's
and put them
you
in
still have it in
three.
3 boxes, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, man, like it's I would love to learn how these crowdfunding campaigns go because we were talking about this one where it's like every 2 minutes it felt like they were unlocking something and it's like are those legitimate unlocks? How do they determine whether stretch pays? Do they actually have a team that looks up, okay, here's how each miniature, how much it's going to cost, to print this many?
Yeah,
Um, but I guarantee you they'd make so much money if there was an add-on for a big storage solution.
yeah.
There's no way. There's no way that people wouldn't pay for that, especially with CMON.
Hmm.
So it's weird. Maybe it's a logistical thing that they are like, we don't fucking want to do that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. Because I can't
yeah.
imagine they're coming in for more content of this one.
Are they?
No, I can't imagine they
Oh,
would.
okay. I was gonna say I hadn't heard anything, but
No, yeah, I mean, because Marvel United, I saw someone earlier selling like an entire collection of the original and X-Men, and I'm like, dude, that's like 30 boxes of shit.
a lot of
Like,
stuff.
where do you store it? Like, if anything, that's the biggest issue with board gaming is storage for a lot of these.
That is for sure.
So, I don't know. But still, like, I mean, I guess it's good for business with people who have 3D printers and an Etsy store.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
this is a lot of fun.
yeah. It is. I really enjoy it. It's a solid one for sure. Oh,
Nice. All right. My number 27, speaking of a storage solution that doesn't exist, this one was number 11 last year and number 9 the year before. Uh, and this one I think I finally was able to show you, and we had played it with the solo or like the bot that you can play, which is okay. It's serviceable if you really wanted to play this at 2, and that is Black Rose Wars. Specifically Rebirth, because that's kind of like their remake, second edition, from the original. I know I've mentioned it multiple times in the past, but Dueling Wizards is kind of like a like it's one of my favorite types of games, especially whenever they really hit the nail on the head like this game does. Um, I'm a huge Aleister Crowley fan and everything that he represented, so this kind of game is just right up my alley. Um, Obviously, I'm kidding. Aleister Crowley was this fucking weirdo that was like he was like a real life. He thought he was a real life wizard, and he just. I'm not even gonna go into everything that that guy did, but oh, this is really cool. I like
I could
that.
probably print something like that,
Probably
like
could.
that's
Um, but this is kind of like unlike your craziness that WizWar has or whatever the hell Epic Spell Wars is. This is a Euro style dueling wizards game. We have a particular character that if you want to play with them, they can have special abilities, but they have an affinity for a particular type of school of magic, but this game just has so many different schools of magic that you will have. I mean, you'll set out which ones you want. In the way I do it is like I have each player kind of pick a school. Like it's like, okay, here's the school for your wizard, and then now we can kind of pick a random one that's going to be in. And there's so many different spells within their schools, and each of them do something completely different. But kind of like Reichbusters or Gloomhaven or Fireteam Zero, this one has a top and a bottom effect as well. That whenever you're playing, you will program these spells out and into like a quick slot that you can kind of do as one of your two actions, and then you have the three that you have to do in order. So you're trying to set up a lot of stuff, depending on what you think your opponents are going to do. Like there's trap spells, there's conditional spells that you could activate, but then they don't reveal just in case you're thinking someone's going to try and attack you. It could be like as simple as a counter spell. If you think someone's going to attack you, but you activated a counter spell, you can flip it and be like, oh, it's actually redirected to you or whatever it might be. But you're really trying to go for victory points. You get victory points by destroying, well, actually in Rebirth, the buildings or the tiles are already destroyed and you kind of fix them, you fix them up. In the original, you were destroying them by casting destructive spells. And so you get points for doing that. You get points for doing the most damage when a wizard dies, because when a wizard dies, they just go back to their like room, their spawn point, and go back out. Um, so you get points for completing personal goals, personal objectives, and that I think works a lot better than just kind of straight up player elimination. But I love the fact that every room has a special ability to it. Mainly the reason why this one has always just been so high up is that it is like controlled chaos in the ultimate dueling wizard uh board game. So this has gone off without a hitch every time I've played it. And yeah, like I love it. I love it. There's so much content for it of just very unique wizard schools, like magic schools that you would never think of, and somehow they were able to refine those schools to be completely unique. So it's probably always gonna, I mean, past 2 years, yeah, it's fallen, but it's still in the top 30. And that's just because this game does do better with more people, and it's just getting harder to get more people to play. So
Yeah, I had all of the stuff for Rebirth, but I ended up selling it. Not that I because I didn't like the game, because when we played it, I had a lot of fun with it. It's just
yeah,
I will never play this game. Like I still have the original Black Rose Wars and the Inferno expansion, but I just don't. This kind of game isn't ever going to hit with me because it does need more players for the most part and
yeah.
stuff. And
It has like a solo bot that it does create another body, but it doesn't like replicate like a true solo. I would never choose to play this at two,
Right.
even though they have their Black Rose Wars Lux or like they have their own Black Rose Wars duel,
Mhm.
but that is so lame.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I just kind of, I mean, I definitely like the game. It's
Yeah.
just not going to be anywhere near my top 100 or anything.
Yeah. This is the dual one. The reason why this game works so well is because in the regular Black Rose Wars, you have a ton of different schools, and you don't have to stick to one. You can. You could be like, I'm gonna be the Transfiguration wizard, and that would be perfectly fine. But if you want to start comboing with other different schools to get different synergies, you are, welcome to do so. The duel is like, oh, this is a two-player game, but you only pick one school of magic for both players to share, so you're both doing the same thing. It's so fucking lame. It would have been better if it was like, oh, hey, here's Black Rose Wars Duel. Each of you pick a school. So you can only still pull from one deck, but at least you're different.
Right.
That I think would be a lot better, which I guess there's nothing really stopping you from doing that, but I don't know. I did not like their Lux. And I ended up getting rid of it, even though I kind of wanted to keep it just because you could take that school of and put it in this one,
Yeah.
but I disliked it that much that I was like, you know what? I don't need this school of magic.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I completely get it. This is a fantastic, like, oh, I'm gonna finally have a game day. I'm gonna set this one up and it's gonna go over extremely well.
Yeah. Or fizzle.
Yeah.
All right. My number 27 is my highest rated uh Fister game. Um this was one that I showed you a couple years ago, I think. And for one reason or another, this one hits my sweet zones so much better than his other games. And that is Boonlake.
Boonlake.
It
Nice.
has a weird theming to it with the whole tech stuff, but you kind of start understanding that a little bit more if you get the expansion and play it, the artifacts expansion, because it brings in a little bit more reasoning behind that stuff, I guess.
Okay.
But in this game, I mean, it's got your typical, your Maracaibo, all that stuff. There's that whole rondel, you know, timer thing that's going on. And in this case, it's your boats moving along the river, because it moves along the river, and then you like hit this gate and you have to go back around and back in. So that's your timer. And all the while you are inhabiting this land, you are building stuff on it, putting out cattle, all these different things. It's a pretty complex game. Because like BGG has it at like almost a 4. But
Really?
well, it's 3.81. So I mean,
I guess I'm just too smart for my own good.
well, no, and there's a
No,
lot
I'm
of
kidding.
decisions though,
There is.
or I'm a hell of a teacher, one of the two. But anyway,
Well, I mean, you are a legitimate teacher, so I'd
uh,
hope so.
but anyway, what's ingenious
Oh
about this
wait, I
game?
know what you teach though, so that makes me.
Yeah,
You're like, man, I was able to really dumb it down for you.
yeah, yeah, elementary
Oh,
school. There you go. But what's cool about this is the action system, because this little board right here has all these actions that you choose from. Depending on what you choose, well, you can move your boat that many spaces, and then you get to take the action. So the first half of that tile is stuff you take, but then your opponents get to take the other one. So that's the kind of cool thing about this, because you have to kind of, you're always in the game. There's the downtime isn't there, because you're always gaining stuff on other people's turns, doing stuff on other people's turns. You have your little canoe dealy bobbers here that you move around in different ways. You're trying to empty these houses and cattle and farms off of your board to get victory points. You got these levers you can upgrade and pull that give you stuff. There's just a lot of crap going on. You have a card system that cards can, there's like day cards and night cards you can play, and they do different stuff. There's also a little bit of another race aspect, because these tracks down here at the bottom, are, first to do this, first to do this, whatever, and then you push your tile down, and that's victory points. There's points all over the place, and there the stuff out here on the main board. You're constantly competing for stuff. You have to, you're branching out and exploring. What the expansion does is it adds another map board over to the side, and you are sending out treasure hunters. So your treasure hunters are going out finding these mysterious artifacts and stuff.
Okay.
But how it brings in that tech deal a little bit. There's all these like weird vases scattered around, apparently, like in there, and they're loaded to the brim with this. What I never couldn't remember, so I looked it up on BGG. They're loaded to the brim with it. It's called variable atomic system energy. So base, and
Okay.
you put your found bases into the new artifacts, and you secure victory points and stuff. So you kind of are like, it's atomic stuff. So it's like, that's where your future stuff starts coming in a little bit more. So you start feeling like, okay, so this is actually, the future and stuff. Because it looks like, if you didn't know any of that, and if that box cover didn't have any of that tech stuff, it'd be like, okay, this is like an old, 1700s game. We're just expanding our colony, and stuff like that. But it adds a little bit of that stuff to it. And I would say there's enough in the base game that it's great. And this one actually is preferred to play it too, in my opinion. I've played it at different counts. 2 is the best for me, I think.
It's funny. Like, I actually like a lot of his games at 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like Great Western Trail, Maracaibo. I think they all scale really well, but I always like them at lower player counts.
I
Mainly
think
because,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say mainly because I want it to be my turn a lot quicker, and so it is.
Well, I think a thing, especially with Maracaibo and this one, like with 2 people, like, because that whole river track, like it seems like you have more control with it. And it's like, because you get blocked spaces and stuff if there's more ships out there too. I think 2 just lets you have more ability to control, what's happening and stuff. But yeah, I mean, this one's super duper game. This is on my list of games to print an insert for, because it's all over the place in that box. But yeah, I mean, this one's top notch.
Nice.
Don't let the box cover throw you off, because it's kind of a weird box cover. It's definitely a great game.
Yeah, I agree. All right. My number 26 is new to the list and probably one of the more polarizing games that I think has come out a lot recently, which I know there's definitely going to be some quality of life upgrades that the company is working on, which if I remember, I'll bring those up. But this one is, maybe not counting Elder Scrolls, which unfortunately is not going to be on either of our lists. Um, this is actually my girlfriend's favorite game that we've played so far, and it's an experience for sure, and that is Dawn of
How
Madness.
long did you wait for this one?
Oh my God. Well, to be fair, with the amount of writing and everything that's in this, I kind of get it, especially because Dimension Games is a smaller team. They're not some
Yeah.
robot gods that Into the Unknown is.
I just
But
remember like it was on your anticipated list like 2 or 3 years.
yeah, it was. I mean, it was definitely delayed, but at least it was. I finally got it, and I still have more content for it coming. That's the crazy thing, because they have 4 characters in the base set, and each of them have their own storybook, and each storybook has different rules to it. And I think there's 2 more that is currently being worked on, and I think they're doing another not expansion, another crowdfunding thing. Um, but this one is, it has to be the most. I mean, that should be a top 10 that we should do, at top 10 atmospheric games, because goddamn, that is this game to a T, which is crazy because it does not look it. the board itself does not look like it would be super atmospheric because each of these cards are just kind of strewn about. But they're all locations that you go to, and it almost looks weirdly abstract just because of the way the monsters move. But the way that it feels to me is that you're in the mind of what, like, if you're playing a multiplayer, you basically pick like a lead investigator, and that's the book that you're using. So that's where a lot of the story elements are coming from. But you're essentially in the mind of that person. And what helps for me with all these different locations is that these are just fragmented sections where you're jumping randomly. If you were able to poke into someone's brain, um, you would just be kind of like leapfrogging to different locations. It's like, oh, I'm here now. And then you're just like, oh, you get warped into another memory or another element of that person's mind, where all these creatures are kind of jumping in to attack you. But the way the game works is kind of straightforward, in terms of what you're doing on your turn. You have your standard action selections that you can do where you can move, and but what's neat is you have a certain number of your sanity is kind of your actions, which is what that track over on the left is. Um, so if you're like gonna move or you're gonna attack, that's going to cost a certain number of sanity, so you'll move down, and then it just goes from top to bottom on who's activating. So you can do a lot of little actions or one big action, or the monsters or enemies are going to do the same thing. So they might do one big attack, but then they're not going to activate until, way later in the round. But you're overall going for story points where you need to gather a certain number of, I think it's 40 total story points divided between, four different endings. Three of which you're gonna eventually get, but the fourth one is like super unique. Uh, but you also have to kill the abomination, which is like the big boss of the two phases. There's like one big story, like, hey, here's the major portion of the game, but then once you get your 40 story points and you kill the abomination, then you go to a finale, which is kind of a lot quicker. Uh, fortunately and unfortunately, this game is extremely long. Like that's kind of the biggest thing is I if you ever wanted to play this, this would be the game we're playing that day,
Gotcha.
for a majority of the day. But that's the unfortunate part. The fortunate part is they have done a print and play save system with what we currently have. But what is going to be coming with the next wave of content is a legitimate storage system, where you can save it, because goddamn, this game needs a save system because it just doesn't have one. And it's a lot of reading. It is a lot of reading. You think, what games have we played where I've had to read a lot? Aeon's End. Aeon's End might be the biggest one
Uh,
that I've had to read.
Aeon's in, but you also had a lot of reading on Primal.
Yeah, till the end where I quit. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah, who cares with this nonsense? Um, but yeah, Aeon's End is like a children's book compared to how much reading this one has. But I know that they said that they're doing voice acting, whether they do
That's
it in
good.
house or I think they should get Foreteller to do it. But who knows how much that's going to cost them.
Right.
Either way, if it's the fucking owner reading in his garage, those old shitty, I'll take that over me having to read anything ever again.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this one is an absolute blast whenever you're wanting to get into this kind of theming. They nailed it. Uh, the dice system is really cool. The action, like, you have different domains on your character, which is ex I was gonna say extremely complex, but it's really not. But it's a lot of rules because you have five different areas, which is like your sight and your mind and your hand and all that different stuff. And those all do special things. And then you also have cubes that go into those sections that all do different things that are different colored. It's just too much for me to go into right now, but it's a very unique system. But I would never say this game is it's like, this is not for everyone for sure.
Right.
Um, But if you're wanting a game centered around, God, I don't know, Evil Within, Dead Space, Resident Evil, um, those type of top-notch. Well, Evil Within sucks. As like, but I love the theme, but the video game sucks so bad. It's it's just something else. So yeah, that's my number 26, Dawn of Madness.
All right. My number 26 was 32 last year. And if this list would have been done, if we would have done this a little bit later, this probably would have fallen.
Ooh. So
Because
Timeline saved it.
kind of for this year. Next year, it's going to suffer. And I have the same issues with this game as you talked about when you talked about this game a few segment or two ago. I'm just kind of tired of the word that's going to come out and tell you what it is, the grind, right?
Yeah,
you know
exactly
what I'm talking about. Segment. Okay, last segment. I couldn't remember what it was.
36, yeah.
Yeah, and that's Icebarian Guard. It bums me out so much because I was so pumped for this game, and I still think it's a good game there. It's just there's something, I don't know, man, that like you talked about, just the constant taking forever to have to do something to go do, in the grind and everything, because there's mechanisms in this game that's awesome. I love all the chip stuff and the bag pulling and the stories is decent, and stuff like that. It's like, and everything, but man, that where you just get constantly stuck having to do fights and stuff like that. It's just, I don't got time for that. It's like,
no, I know, yeah.
It's like, and so it's probably going to fall. Like, this game probably would have been in my 40s or 50s if I would have, like, because I just played it again here, over the last like 2 weeks, and I was just like, God damn, this is, but
yeah, because it's not, it's too much to like homebrew before you're like,
right.
Because don't get me wrong, with board games, I will take as many liberties as I want to enjoy a game. Like, but even I have a certain point with this game where I'm like, why am I doing this then? If I'm skipping, if I'm just hopping to where I want to go just to get to the good parts of the game, then why am I even bothering? I can't remember if I brought it up last time, but just in case I didn't, or if I did, I'm gonna repeat myself. But I'm recording this. This is an ongoing series on my channel, and we have opted to skip, if it's not like mainstay story stuff, we don't really record it. But we were moving, like, off camera, we were moving around, and we got to a point, we drew from the chip, and it was like a 2 skull thing. And it's like, all right, let's fight it. So we set it up. I had this overwhelming feeling of, I don't want to do this, because I'm not recording it. I don't want to do this. And like, that's not a good thing. Like,
Right.
this feeling of, I would rather literally do anything else than do this random fucking encounter that ultimately means we're gonna get 10 sil, 30 lux, and a horn.
Right.
It's like, for what? For like, to get a slightly better sword, And this game has the game has the character build too. That's the thing. It's like, you can get, they have, when you're looking at like the blacksmith or the shit at Fort Istra, it's like all these weapons look fucking cool. But to get them, it's like, dude, let's just cheat. Let's say we got it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It blows my mind with this one. And so many people in my comments for my grind video were like, there's no way they play tested this. I'm like, I guarantee you they play tested the mechanics.
Yeah,
They did not play test the open world.
What I think they made, and whether they play test or not, I don't know, but I think their intent with this game was for this to be the lifestyle game for people that got into it, and that we're just going to sit there and like embrace the grind and say, this is my game. This is my one game I'm going to play. we're gonna go through, but like in what we do, playing so many new games and trying to get stuff played and move around and stuff, like can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
so whether
This
that was
game
their
also
intent or
doesn't have
not,
the longevity of a lifestyle game.
right?
Like
Well, I mean,
KDM,
yeah,
like it's if that was their intention, they did not provide enough content like
right.
to justify this being your game to do. And I'd have to go back and look at the numbers and stuff, but that one was one of my more interactive videos that I did. And I don't think there might have been one guy who said that he plays it true blue, but
Mhm.
I don't even think there was that. I think every person who commented on that stated that they modified this in some way. Whether that's, I know a lot of people got rid of, you know how you can only carry 4 things in your satchel.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people were like, they completely got rid of that. Where they're like, no, I can have as many items as I want. I just can't have duplicates. Which I didn't make that homebrew. Like I'm fine with the restrictive nature of that, where it's like I don't want to be completely busted with because that's not this kind of game. But like I know in the updated rules they have it to where you can have like those cubes out where if you're in a city with them, you can access your stash back at like Fort Eastra. Fuck that. I have free teleportation like to Fort Eastra. Like if I go and get wood, that's just immediately going into my stash. I have free reign to all that because
Yeah,
I'm
no,
I'm
no,
just
I
not
agree.
I'm not running back. I don't know. This game, perfect example now because this game just came out. This game is the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 of board gaming, where it's like hyper realistic and it's like that it just doesn't work as a board game. So
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
it probably is going to start plummeting pretty quick. I mean, I'm going to keep playing it because I'm trying to get through. I want to play the story and do stuff, but
Because that's all the good stuff.
I
All the
know.
how is this an 8.7? If not, I was like, man, surely this went down. Um,
So I don't know.
yeah,
We'll see. But there are people that love grinding too. I know I don't know if that's the minority, if we're the minority or whatever, but I mean the grind is part of some people's enjoyment. So
yeah. No, for the most part, I think everyone is essentially in our wheelhouse. Um, like actually, funny enough, I just went through the comments because I'm like, how is this an 8.7? With everyone talking about the grind. And so far, the eights are right where we're at. This is way too grindy for me, but the theme, the world, and the mechanisms are really good. And they
yep,
are, for sure. So at the end of the day, skip whatever the fuck you want, give yourself whatever items you want, um, and just play it however you want because like who's stopping you at this
yeah,
point?
yep, exactly. I agree. So that's my number
So,
26
well,
for
good.
now.
Yeah, good game. My number 25 was on your list, I think a couple segments ago. This is also new to my list, and I think I like it obviously a little bit better than you do. This one just really took me by surprise by the two-player asymmetry, and that is help octopus. No, okay.
Yes.
Hey, yo, what the fuck? Yeah, I jumped way up. Pagan Fate of Roanoke. This one, uh, really kind of just had me by the art design. I was like, oh, this kind of has Darkest Dungeon art. I like the theme, the witch hunting aesthetic, but it's 2 players and each side plays a little bit different. And then you and I had played it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I really, really like the fact that it's 2 players, and the fact that both sides can just be built out so radically different from one another.
This was
Um,
80 for me.
oh, was it really that far back?
Yeah,
Damn.
but it's just because I haven't really gotten a chance to really dig into it with my wife and stuff. I think if we get played
Gotcha.
more, because I love the game. I mean, it's definitely this would be a top 30, 40 game if
Yeah,
I was getting it played more.
sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, but yeah, the fact that like this both sides I equally like playing, and I don't really know which side I like more. Um, and how there's so many expansions that you're actually deck constructing if you want. You don't have to. You can clearly just do precons, but if you wanted to try out a different build, you're allowed to do that. To try and either hide yourself easier as the witch and get off your rituals a lot more, or do a lot more social deduction. Well, not social, a lot more deduction to figure out who is the witch. And the interaction between both players is done so well. We were doing everything in your power to kind of hinder the witch hunter if you're the witch, or um ruin the plans of the witch if you're the witch hunter, all while trying to, you know, create diversions to pull attention away from the witch hunter, um, and reduce the amount of options you have as the witch hunter to figure out who the witch is. And it's like, because whenever you're the witch, you obviously know who you are, and but kind of like the Star Wars Rebellion is, as time goes on, the witch hunter starts drawing cards that is like who isn't the witch, but you don't know that. So it's like, how, okay, I've been pulling his attention a lot onto this side. Does he know that that's not me, or does he still think that's me and I'm doing a really good job? Um, but there's also that element of kind of like, okay, if I play my cards right, literally, I think I can win. And I think last time we had played this, I I think I was one step ahead of you in terms of timing. Where it's
Yeah,
like, I think you figured out who I was, and I figured out that you figured it out. But I was like, I think I'm gonna be able to
yeah. There's
get
nothing I
my
could do.
and but like I think I was there was a moment where I think I tipped my hand too early, and I was like, oh shit, I'm not gonna be able to I'm not gonna be able to finish this when I thought I was. So there's a lot of fantastic intricacies between players. And this also turns into one of those games where you start playing the player, not the game, which is another fantastic element. But not so much. It's not like chess, or it's not like those other games where it's like, now I'm getting into your mind. Um, that is in addition to the systems of this game. Um, so the theme is amazing, the gameplay is amazing, uh, and both sides are fantastic to play, which is very hard to nail in a game where there becomes a point where the witch hunter could just randomly kill a witch, and that could be you.
That's what I started
Um,
doing. That's what I
right.
was. I just started killing shit.
Yeah, but even then, where I thought that was going to be the game's, whatever, Achilles heel, where it's like, oh well, now the fact that that can happen is kind of shitty. It's so hard. It's really hard work to even start killing, and it's not even good if you start killing off random people. And they I think that's a way you lose, if I remember right.
Yeah, there's like I think if you kill three
Three
innocents, you
incorrect.
die. Or
Yeah,
I think
yeah, they
that's what
kill
it is.
you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's something like that. So I mean, really, but that's another thing. The witch hunter could kill a person knowing full well that that's not the witch, but to get rid of the ability.
Mhm.
Because all those, and there's a ton of different scenarios you can play, different villagers you can throw in. There's a lot of content for this game. And yeah, where it's going to be next year, I don't know. It definitely is going to be dependent on how often I can get it played. But I really, really like this one. So that's my 25.
Which mat is this? Because it's not the one I have. Is this the another version of the?
It's another one. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was from their original Kickstarter
Oh, okay.
whenever
That's
it
probably why.
was Worm Gold and not
Gotcha.
CG. Which, funny enough, I got the CG version at Gen Con last year, and whenever I was like, wait, there's a shit ton of expansions, someone was selling like their all-in Worm Gold Kickstarter, so I bought that from them. Um, and then now, I mean, CG is bringing in all those
Yeah,
overseas, so it's
I've
not
been
you're not
picking
gonna
them
be
up.
missing anything, but I have it all now.
Yeah,
And I compared them, and as far as I'm aware, their CG is just porting it over,
that
and they're
makes
not
sense.
modifying any of the cards or anything, which is just really good. So
All right.
if you're wanting a two-player asymmetric game that, to my knowledge, isn't now the balance of this game, I don't know because of the deck construction. I think
Yeah.
that with the precons, they're incredibly balanced, but I think if you're starting to deck construct, that's going to be another element that you would know full well from like Netrunner.
Right.
Like I would never say Netrunner or Magic is balanced because it's player agency on how they build their deck. If you build
Yeah.
your
If you
deck
get
like
it
shit,
honed
yeah,
down and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. But this one, more than a lot of other games like Marvel Champions, I like this one. I would be way more inclined to actually try and deck construct,
Hmm.
and then be like, oh, Brad, let's play Pagan and try out these decks, and it's like, oh, well, this sucked.
Yep.
Like, but I don't know. I don't know. It's not as free form as Netrunner or anything, where it's like if my deck sucks, it's not gonna be so obvious because there's other elements of the game with the worker placement and actions that will
Right.
assist a bad deck.
Yeah.
I would assume. I don't know. I haven't done that yet. But yeah, that's my 25.
All right. Good choice. My number 25 is the game that's been out for 13 years now. It was 51 last year, so it made a
Ooh.
jump all the way up to 25. It's been hovering, so like it was 65 2 years ago, so it's just been kind of climbing steadily the last couple of years. It is a worker placement game, which is kind of starting to be some of my favorite stuff. And I don't know what else to really say about it. Tzolkin.
I finally played this.
I know. Yes.
After years of having it, and I've played the expansion.
Yes. Yeah. The
This
tribes
game
and
fucking
prophecies.
sucks, dude. No, I'm kidding.
Doesn't.
It's so good.
The tribes and prophecies expansion gives you the variable player powers and
Yeah.
different stuff like that. But yeah, this one is the game with the big gears. That's what it was known for and all that stuff. And what was interesting with this is like when it's your turn, corn is the currency, and you pay corn to put workers out on these gears, the lowest part of the gear. And then as turns go, the gear they spin, and then when it's your turn, because on your turn you can either put workers down or pick up. So when you pick up, you get to take the action of where they are. The longer you keep your tokens on those gears, the more powerful the abilities get, like the further down the track. So the more patient you are, if you can play smarter and leave them on those gears, there's better, more powerful abilities, down the way.
Yeah.
This one just, I wish I was creative enough to like paint my gears, because I mean you see all these pictures of people that have like aged them up and made them look really cool and like stone and all that stuff. I have no mind to look just like this. They're just basic old beige plastic.
Yeah, no, mine are the same. This is a great example of a board that is different pieces that makes sense.
Right.
Like
Oh
Whistle
yeah.
Mountain, where it's like, why'd they do this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, there's enough decision making in this that it keeps things rolling. This was one of the, I mean, it's debatable whether this is part of the T series. Like some people say it is, some people say it's not.
I mean, it's been adopted into the T series.
But this was kind of the first game that this team really put together that hit hard, of Tassini and Luciani. I know they've done a ton of stuff together. I know this isn't the first game. I don't think they did, but this was like the big one that kind of got everything rolling.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot. It was weird with this game because I do remember, because this came out and everybody, the catch was the gears, and everybody was on it. But I don't think this game really hit the super popularity until like Teotihuacan came out and stuff, because then people were like, oh, we love Teotihuacan. Oh, these same two designers did this game. Let's go back and try this game now. And then it's like, and then this game started making a surge, so it's like, I think they kind of helped each other just because of, different odds and ends. But yeah, I mean, this one, another one that just hits right in my wheelhouse, since I'm kind of moving towards Euros a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
The crystal skulls are cool. Just all the different stuff with it and everything. And
Yeah, I like how every section has like it's like specialized. It's like the green section is where you're going to get your resources,
mhm,
your corn and your wood, and then the other one is like, oh, here's where you're going to get your stone and your crystal skulls. And the blue, you can only go if you have crystal skulls,
right,
but you might set someone on there because by the time it keeps turning, you're like, now I have one that I
right.
can pull off. But the the one thing, it's not necessarily a negative I have on this game, but it's something to keep in mind is that I don't think you can win this game if you ignore those tracks. Like the three tracks you
Oh,
go up.
it would be difficult. I don't know how you.
I because I remember I was trying whenever I was playing the expansion. Now, to be fair, the expansion stuff was like, hey, you get a bunch of points if where you're at on the track, but there's like different scoring eras where it's like based off where you're at on those tracks, and it's like I don't think there's enough points elsewhere to let someone at
Yeah,
least run
I don't
away
think
with
so
that.
either.
But people love this game, and you kind of have to go up on the tracks, but yet people throw a fit about Lost Ruins of Arnak. So it's like, oh, that's a little interesting. No, this game is extremely solid, and the expansion is really good too.
Yeah, the expansion I would argue is probably something you really need to have if you want to really. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
I hate to say I'm not going to say must have, but like if you want to play this game multiple times and keep enjoying it, you need that to kind of give you the
because it's a
different.
modular expansion,
Right,
and almost all the modules in it are really good. So yeah, I wouldn't say essential. Like,
right.
oh, when you buy Tolkien, you have to buy the expansion with it, but it's like, you should grab it after a few plays of the base game.
Yep.
Yeah, good pick, good pick, sir. All right, my number 24. Yes, Rose. It was 37 last year and 26 the year before. So it's risen just steadily ever since. And this is one that I am always surprised that you haven't actually played. But it is in our on our list of games to play. And this is not my favorite Cthulhu game, but it is probably the more epic Cthulhu game, I'd say, and that is
Sure.
Eldritch Horror.
Yeah.
Um, no surprise there's going to be a higher one on here, but I think this one encapsulates the overall vibe of the Lovecraft lore than some of the other ones.
So you're gonna put
And
your elder signs in your top 10?
it is, yes. I've really come around. Like, uh, God, no, it's Australia.
Oh
That's my
yeah,
favorite Cthulhu
that's a good
game.
one actually.
Um, but yeah, this one is kind of like your epic global, uh, uh, Lovecraft game that surprisingly, I think I've been touting it for a while, but I really just don't think Fantasy Flight has it in them anymore, or the resources to make a third edition. I think what scares them about redoing this one is one, all their eggs are in the Arkham Horror LCG, uh, but two, Arkham Horror third edition was so bad that I think they're like, well, we don't want to butcher this one. But this one is kind of like it's so hard to explain why it's so high up here if you're not like a Lovecraft fan, which obviously I am with my with my tattoo. So it's well, I should say I'm a fan of his work, not him as a person.
Yes, that's good distinction.
I'd be wearing a weird red hat if I was really into Lovecraft as a person too. Um, but this one is kind of like your major epic, uh, just what genre is this? Monster slaying, like the big bad god that's going to be coming, that you're trying to kill at the end of the day. Going around and solving issues that are happening, getting a bunch of items for your character to be able to resolve mysteries that will get you the clues that you need to be able to stop the awakening of the Elder God. And if he does awaken, then you gotta actually kill him. But this kind of just has the vibe of everywhere you're going has like their own unique deck. that is going to be tied to that location, and it's kind of like, oh, here's all of Lovecraft's work thrown into one big melting pot within Eldritch Horror. And I remember years ago, I could never decide which one I liked better between this one and Arkham Horror, because I liked the small form factor. Well, I like the city factor that Arkham Horror was, where it's like we're just in Arkham, and that feels a little bit more localized and kind of small town horror shit. Um, but I think the systems of Eldritch Horror just are still incredibly clean. This is a game that utilizes the most basic of dice resolution, but for some reason doesn't bother me here. Because you're just looking for fives or sixes, and every test you make is going to be based off of, your attributes, and then if you, succeed or fail, shit's going to happen. But because there's so much flavor text in everything you're doing here, you're really in it for the story. But this is also just a one-off. There's nothing campaign about this, but you feel like you played a campaign when you're done. Um, so yeah, I think this one just kind of has the overall vibe that I'm looking for whenever I really want to dive into Lovecraft, more so than Mansions of Madness or um any of the Arkham Horror games. So this one I think still works, still holds up. So that's my 24 Eldritch Horror.
Yeah, I'm excited to play this one at some point
This
because
one is also long, but not as long as Dawn of Madness. Like
right.
this is like well at two if you're like I know Chad has played like an 8-player game of this. And fuck that. Like I'm trying to think of 6 people I'd even want in my house at the same time. So but that's wild. I mean I would love to if someone organized that, I would love to jump in on that, but it's um it's something else. And they did something really cool with this one too, where they have these prelude cards that when you're setting up, you shuffle the deck of them and you draw them, and it'll randomize the setup a little bit different. And sometimes it'll have you play with the Egypt board instead of you deciding, oh, how much, what expansions do we want to throw in. They kind of make the decision for you if you don't want to do that. So you might be like, oh, hey, this game we can go to Antarctica. This
Right.
game will have the dream realm, which is, and I really enjoy that because it kind of prevents players from overwhelming themselves by throwing in every expansion. So that I think should be implemented a little bit more into other board games, especially games like this, where you don't have to decide what expansions you want. A random deck, because every time you play, that prelude deck alone is gonna make it feel a little bit different.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's just awesome if you're into that Cthulhu stuff. So that's my 24.
good choice. All right. My number 24 was one of my top 10s that fell out. And it fell out mainly just because I haven't played it a whole lot, even though it's best solo. Um, I just haven't gotten it out to play it, so it'll probably move right back up once I play it some more. It's just it has fallen down my play list a little bit for other games, and that is
Oh,
Imperium Horizons, which all the Imperiums fit in here: Legends, Classics, Horizons. Um, this one just made it to where there's 30 civilizations now to play, which is insane.
yeah. This one was funny enough was also yeah, in my 80s.
Yeah, yeah. So this one's just I don't know, man. I this one just needs to be played solo. I mean, in my mind, I mean, I know you can play it 2-player and more, but the length of the game, all that different stuff, like the solo of this game is so solid that you pick your civilization. The basic versions of the civilization, you start out like on barbarian, and you're working yourself up, and then you'll eventually become civilized. And as you're building out your tableau of different stuff, um, and it's the base box classics had some of them. We discussed this when you talked about it. That were kind of similar in play style, but then they've gotten just way wild with this Horizons, with having Martians and cultists, and there's all these different things you can do. And you be quiet, Zeus. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those games where, because we've played it at 2 a couple of times now, and it's fine. I mean, 2's fine. It's just a little longer, but solo still, to me, the best way to play it. I don't know what you think, but yeah, this one's you have it's deck building, so of course not. I mean, yeah, not deck building per se. Yeah, everybody has their own deck, but you're doing like deck building mechanisms where you're drawing up, playing cards, discarding, all that stuff. And the unrest is another interesting thing, and getting those unrest cards in your deck. They do different things for different factions throughout the 3 games. Some of them benefit from it. Some of them, there's special unrests that they're going to throw out into stuff. It's just kind of an interesting game. But it's very deep. Like, as thinking of these kind of games, I mean, this one as a card game is a 4 in complexity on BGG, because it is a super complex game, but not necessarily in the actions of the game. It's more like just learning your civilizations and stuff, right? Because like when we played the Martians, I was flabbergasted how to control the Martians, because you had to do it backwards. Like, you started off civilized, you're trying to incorporate yourself into the civilization. And it was just, I could not wrap my head around it for the longest time. But
I mean, the cultists are super weird too. I feel like it's one of those where the more far out civilizations are the more unique ones. And then everyone else kind of feels roughly in the same wheelhouse. I haven't played this enough really to be able to 100% guarantee that all of them actually feel completely different. It feels like they're all doing the same thing, but in a different order. Is kind of how I view it, but I haven't played every single faction, so I'm not entirely, and I don't play it enough. I feel like if you played this every day, you'd be like, oh man, they do play completely different. So, I don't know. I'd be interested to know if someone in the comments would be able to tell us, like, I love this game, and they do all play different.
Yeah, and what I liked about this Horizons expansion particularly is, it all fits in one box if you have especially because the organizer that I purchased, like, fits everything in there nicely.
Yeah.
And then it has what I think a lot of these games need to do is it has one big rule book.
Yeah.
For all of them put together. So it was kind of, I don't think they're going to come out with anything else for this game. I think this is pretty much curtain call for content.
I'd say the same thing.
Because I mean, they're stretching with the civilizations that they're pulling out now. But it's a really solid game. I like the art, of course, because I like the Miko art. But yeah, I mean, this one could very easily jump right back up if I get it played some more. I just hadn't played it much.
If anything, what they might do is kind of like an Undaunted thing. They nix the real life civilizations. I mean, now they have cultists and Martians and stuff, but they start
retheme it.
Yeah, retheme it.
Yeah.
Which would allow them a lot more creative freedom because they don't have to adhere to history.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's something they could do, which I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But good choice. This game is very solid.
Yeah.
All right, my number 23 also rose. It was number 28 last year, and it was new last year. So it has jumped up a little bit, and that's just because this game is an absolute blast to play every single time and kind of is in line with a few other campaign games that I've mentioned. This isn't a campaign, but it definitely feels like it, and that is Freelancers. God, this cover I think is awful.
Yeah,
I think it's the color scheme more so than anything.
yeah.
Like that weird ass pink. But um this is another game I think I talked about Forgotten Waters a while back. Yeah, I actually was able to quickly see it. It was number 70. Um Even though they're funny enough in the exact they're both crosswords games and they both follow the same formula. This one just is perfect for me because I am actively in D&D and D and I have been for years, and that is what this is as a theme versus the pirate one, which Forgotten Waters is still really good. This one just encapsulates that D&D wackiness because they knew what they were doing with the writing. This game is so fucking funny, and legitimately the writing and voice acting is top notch for it. Um, One of my favorite things about this is actually nothing to do with the game itself. It's part of the setup because you will pick a class and you'll pick a race, and some of the classes are, you know, weird and wacky. Like, yeah, you have your regular ones like Paladin, but like they have disgraced noble. Um, they have like a thief. They have like just these kind of weird ones that you can pick, and the different races are super unique too, which is awesome. So picking both of those are gonna kind of give you uh um a different combination of actions and things that you will mark on your sheets, but it's also going to give you different storytelling stuff for your Mad Lib style, which is something I haven't looked if they kept in Wandering Galaxy. I really hope they did because that is some of the funniest stuff. Like whenever, because everyone's done Mad Libs. If you haven't, I don't know how at this point, but whenever, because Mad Libs are always really funny, like the one time you do it, but because have you ever done them multiple times and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not really funny anymore. This one does it so sparingly, and not even all of your uh things that you wrote down, not even all of them are going to get brought up, but they sometimes will, and when they do get brought up, it's so hilarious. Um, because it's going to be tiered to your group. Um, but yeah, the fact that this kind of has that epic, well, not epic, but like that storytelling journey of playing like your just the crazy D&D sessions that you can have, that each scenario that you pick is just going to be different because of the way that they've implemented the crossroads system, based off what classes are in the game, how many players are there, what races they are, what followers you get, what bags you, well, you know, what tokens you pull from the bag, what scenarios you know, which route you take. Like they haven't done. It's actually kind of interesting because in the scenarios, I'm actually going to pull up the app right now. Um, well, it's actually a web-based app, but you know, you hit start quest, and there are only 5 in the game, and they have different difficulties. So, Wizards and Worms, Sisters and Songs, Relics and Revenue, Deeper and Deeper, and Heroes and, oh man, Deeper and Deeper. That's a good one. And then Heroes and Horrors. So they went for quality over quantity in these, which of course, whenever you really like a game, you want more and more content. But I think them just keeping it to the 5, but having a lot of variety within those 5 is a lot better in the long run.
Right.
Even though Forgotten Waters ended up getting a DLC, they kind of scrapped it. They quit doing content for it because Forgotten Waters also has one, two, three, four, five. They have 6 scenarios that you can do. And I'd like to check Wandering Galaxy, but the app's not done. But they have 3 right now. I don't know if the app is gonna add more. Either way, the whole point of that is just they went for quality over quantity. And I've done missions and scenarios multiple times and have different outcomes, and it's so much fun. And the gameplay is super simple. Like whenever you go to a new location, you just pick a spot that sounds fun to go to, and then you do a check, and then you go to an entry in the book, and make more checks and progress through the campaign. You could easily lose. The very first time I played this, we took on a fight that we we thought we could handle, and we all died. Um, and that was a party wipe, and that was the end of that session. So I like that, and I like that it gives you that same kind of epic D&D feel without committing to a whole campaign. So
Yeah.
it's definitely one to check out if you're into these kinds of styles, and you're just gonna have a good time. It's so much fun, and the voice acting for this is really, really good. That's my 23. Freelancers.
All right. I haven't played any of these games since Dead of Winter. I mean, that's the only Crossroads game I've played.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it sucks because unfortunately they're not great at 2. You
right.
can play them, but they have like weird rules that you have to throw in. And maybe it's not weird. Maybe it's just like maybe it works. But I know like Forgotten Waters is a little bit different. For like the bots and stuff you have to throw in. So
Mhm.
you need at least 3, and 4 if you really can swing it.
Yeah.
They're the more the merrier is really the way these games go.
Yep. All right. My number 23 was number 6 last year.
Damn.
So it fell. And the only reason it fell is because I hadn't played it, but I just played it recently, like 2 days ago.
And it should be further back.
And no, and
Sucks.
it actually would probably be right around my top 10 again. And we are actually going to be talking about this game in the near future as well.
Ooh,
And that is Hoplomachus Victorum.
nice.
This one, like I said, hadn't played a whole lot. Like 2 days ago, I was playing some refresher on it. I haven't
Good
played
deal.
the expansions yet. That's what I'm going to do this weekend. But this one, I loved Hoplomachus. I love everything Chip Theory does. And then when they announced this one, the solo only epic scale adventure, I was like, yep, I'm in. So and the expansion for this game is interesting, the Pandora's Ruin, because it adds a lot of cool stuff to this game already. It's going to add like some new scions to do, so that's automatically a lot more gameplay. There's new arena rules, so there's going to be new stuff for the arenas, which will
Is
be
that what that
nice.
was? Okay, I thought it was like a reprint of like the the sheets. I was
Oh,
like,
no. There's new arena rules.
okay.
There's new Primus events. There's different events you can do. They've actually added uh, special, like specific Scion things to the campaigns. And then the most
Oh, that's
exciting thing
right.
they've
Yeah.
said is the expedited play mode. I
Yeah,
don't
the
know.
Hermes was a Hermes
I don't.
mode or
I don't know. I haven't played with it yet. I'm just looking at
okay.
BGG here, and it talks about has it because this game Victorum on its own, if you play through the entire storyline, is a long game. Um,
Yes.
and we talked about that when we reviewed Elder Scrolls, how it's long. Um, but so I mean, when you get into these games, you've got to be invested. There are ways to save and different stuff like that, but this is still a long campaign per se. So having the expedited play mode, I'm interested to see how that changes things up and everything. But then there's also some other little expansions that are out for this as well that kind of do different stuff that bring stuff over from remastered, some characters from remastered and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I think it was it was the other Pandora's expansion that allowed you to take characters from remastered and play them in
yeah, it's
Victorum.
Pandora's Might. Is what
Pandora's
it's
Might,
called.
that's it.
Yeah. So this game, when you look at it set up like this, it's not doesn't take up a ton of space really. I mean, considering when you think about some of their other games. I
That's
love
true.
that. I love that the arena sitting thing. I can't remember the whatever
Whether
they
the
call that.
token tray or the token
Yeah,
holder.
but that's just so cool how you just get everything set up in there. Everything's
Yeah.
just kind of right in front of you. And it's nice to do this because I mean it's a solo only game, so they tried to make it to where it you know it all is sitting around that one person. I think that's why it doesn't take up as much space. It's just kind of like just right there with you. But so setup's pretty easy because you're going to pick your hero, and then you're going to go through and there's going to be these um, three Primus you're going to end up going against, and then you have a Scion that you pick, and they're coming because you set them all up in the back trays, the back part of the trays, so you kind of know what's going on. And then there's different arena battles. There's different kinds of things you're going to do to win different battles. They're in different settings, so you have all these little different little maps you'll set on here that'll have you set up doing stuff. And it uses this guy's all fancy because he has the metal dice, but I didn't do the metal alloy dice.
I was like, how'd you even see that? I see him now.
Yeah. But
There was a game that I ended up backing that I chose to do the metal. Was it 20 strong? I think I did. I think I ended
you
up
went
getting
and
the
got the
metal.
metal dice for
I
20
think
strong?
so. And I'm looking back and I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? Because I don't like metal dice.
I know, I
Like
don't
metal
either.
dice in D&D, I despise. So I don't know. I'm apparently just stupid.
I mean, it'll help. It's nice because you have that the table with the table mat. It's better, but like
That's
if you're using a
true.
wooden table or something, it sucks.
All right, here's my grandmama's antique wooden.
Right, right.
It's like just dented immediately with a
Yeah.
D1 metal D100. Just creates a
So
crater.
yeah. So here in the near future we'll be putting out a review for this on the channel and
Yeah,
stuff.
your
So
boy got his foot in the door with Chip Theory.
yeah,
So yeah, expect a lot of Hoplomachus because this will be up next week.
right.
This top 10 will be up, or top 100 will be up next week. So yeah, look ahead to for a lot of Hoplomachus content.
Yeah. So this one definitely will be like we've said this multiple times. We make these lists far enough ahead. This would probably be right back around my top 10 again if I had played it more recently.
I
So
am surprised that it is out. Just I figured that it wouldn't have mattered if you hadn't touched it in a while because it's Chip Theory
well, we've
and you
got some
just
bangers coming up.
that's that is true. Yeah, I'm extremely excited to dive back into Victorum specifically because I see the similarities with Elder Scrolls
Hmm.
to this one.
Yes.
And it's like obviously our Elder Scrolls discussion is up and it's a 10 out of 10. And this one, I don't remember what I gave it, but I
This is a
had,
10 for me.
you know what it is? I think I know that this one's a 10 for you.
Hmm.
I have it as a 5 right now. From whenever I played your copy.
Jesus.
Um, just well, you know what it is? I think it kind of comes down to one, the length was not justified for me. Um, but two, I think because in Too Many Bones or Elder Scrolls, even if you miss, yeah, it sucks because obviously you want a certain result, but you're still getting something for it. Here, if you miss, it's just like, well, big old middle finger. So I think the dice resolution kind of irks me, but I'm excited to jump into it again. One, after having played it originally, and two, having kind of played Elder Scrolls and seeing some similarities. If it's a mindset thing, it could easily be the same. I could get through Act One and be like, "Nope, it's still, it's still not for me." Um, but just like with every other review copy that I get, I'm not paid by the company, so if I don't like it, I'm gonna say why I don't like it.
Yep.
Um, but I am excited. I'm going to go in with a fresh mindset. And, well, it also helps because my copy won't be sopping wet like yours was whenever you handed it over to me. Like, I was like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is this? Good thing
Hey,
it's
it's
neoprene.
chip theory. It doesn't matter if it's wet or not.
I know. I know. I was able to sloth off all that excretion off the cards. Fucking A. Okay. My ew. Getting someone's copy. Why is it wet? Sorry. Chip theory, man. Never talk to me again.
The chips are all stuck together.
Yeah, I got the premium health tokens. Yeah, dude, they're all glued together. My number 22 is my last new one for this segment. It's a game that you and I have played together, even though it's not ideal at two. I finally was able to play it with more, and it is obscenely better with more people. And this one is fun in a box. That is Thunder Road Vendetta.
I would love to have this game. I just don't think
Chrome.
I'd ever get it played.
No, I mean, there's no way. Like, it's like one, it's not, again, it's fine at two, but it's clearly better with more people.
Mhm.
And if you're not getting more people to play, and if you are, then just invite me. And I'll be like, oh, bro, be running with my Thunder Road Vendetta. Specifically Maximum Chrome, because it adds in a bunch of stuff to it. This one, for some reason, I stayed away from, mainly because I don't know. It seemed like it was just pure randomness, but because of the games that I am just really, really loving, I mean, man, this one is just so much fun. Like, because, wow, that's really cool. Okay. That is not the Maximum Chrome Edition, everyone, unless that's an add-on that I missed. Those rocks,
Yeah,
like
but the 3D printed must be.
that has to be 3D printed, but that is, and the ramps
Yeah.
on them, that's really cool. Yeah. This I could see a game that I would love to to get those extra copies because it just really would amp to the or add to the atmosphere. But yeah, this is Mad Max the game. You're racing down a road with three different cars that shooting at each other, causing people to wreck and move into like oil slicks, which cause them to like slide back into you, which causes you to wreck, and then that careens you up into a ramp, and then the ramp flies off and you land in fire. All that is very possible in one one action. But what makes this game so much more fun is the fact that the rules are extremely straightforward. Like, up, you roll four dice. One of those dice is going to be used for like a special ability, and the other three are used to activate your three cars, and potentially less because your cars can be completely destroyed. And that's one of the ways you can win is if you're the last car remaining on the board, or if a certain number of tiles have passed, that the finish line shows up and you actually make it across the finish line. Um, there's a lot of really crazy modules in this that just add to the variety whenever you're playing. But honestly, like if you just throw in the random hazard tiles and you don't throw in motorcycles or unique player powers or the big rig or any of that, you're still gonna have an absolute blast because they did something where the way that there's so many different tiles and they're both double-sided or they're all double-sided. Just the standard rules and the road you're going to be driving on is going to be a blast every single time. So, yeah, like this is a game I know a lot of people will say it, but if you have an option to choose like the smart move or the fun move, you're incentivized to do the fun move. As long as it's not like I'm not saying like, oh, this is guaranteed to make my car wreck. I'm gonna choose that. You're gonna do something where it's like, I have a very small chance of succeeding what I want to do, but if I pull it off, it's gonna be really neat. You're probably gonna do that, and just everyone is engaged. Everyone is trying to do something crazy, and if it happens, then it's just like it's not frustrating because it's just so radically insane that you're just like in the moment of what everyone is like trying to do. So yeah, I am very glad I picked this one up. It's kind of like one of those smaller or one of those games that like if I am going to a friend's house, I know there's going to be like two or three other people there. It's like Thunder Road. Like I'm gonna bring that. I haven't tried the expansion yet, which adds like a battle dome. I that was their oh God, Carnival of Chaos, I think is what it was called.
Yes.
I do want to try that one. And this game alone is the reason why I avoided Joyride, which was kind of the same thing, but that was definitely a battle dome. Um, I don't know. I have two racing games. I have Heat, which is my legitimate racing game where you're not wrecking and shooting at people, and then I have this one, which is not necessarily legitimate racing, but they both have completely different vibes.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, this one, if you're looking for just a crazy, over the top, fun, chaotic game that you don't really care if you get eliminated, um, because if all your cars die, then this is definitely one to check out.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Like, this is one of those, don't go into it as a serious
Oh yeah.
game because, I mean, even if you do get eliminated, it's hilarious just to watch the aftermath, what other people are doing, and all the craziness. So it's just
Yeah.
entertaining.
I've had moves where it's like I had someone like run up and like they like slammed into me, which had caused me to like rush forward into a hazard, which then he flipped over and it was an oil slick, and then I had to roll for an oil slick, which caused me to careen into a unobstructed path, and I blew up. And
Yeah.
it's like, geez, that's like what the fuck? But you're, I mean, that's just part of the game, and that's super fun. I think so anyway. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you take this game way too seriously, or if you're playing with people who are taking this way too seriously, get the fuck out of there. Like those people,
Just team up on them and kill them and get them out of the
that's true.
game.
Be like, oh yeah, no, sorry, you're limited. Please leave.
Yes.
So yeah, Thunder Road Vendetta is my number 22.
All right. My number 22 was 12 last year, and it was 12 the year before that. So it's been pretty consistent. This is one that was in my top five for a handful of years. It's a game you taught me several years ago. Um, and I still love this game. It's just like, other stuff has just eclipsed it. So that's why it's falling to this point, but it'll always be up around here. And that is Orleans.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. Let
this
it
was
go. Everyone let this game go. No.
this was in my top. Like I said, it was number one there for a few years. I think, actually, if I
Yeah,
remember
you were
right.
really
So
high on it whenever I showed it to you.
yeah,
Even I wasn't that high on it.
uh, but yeah, this one just is another one of those games, man. It just hits the right way. It's like because it has your bag pulling, um, and you're putting all these workers or followers, whatever you want to call them, and you have your own board. And where you place those, you place them on your board, and then if you fill in a spot, you get to take that action. Um, and you're constantly trying to add chips to your bag to help you get more and more stuff. You're traveling around a board, you're placing houses and picking up resources there. So there's a collection of goods aspect to it because they're worth points at the end of the game as well. There's all the tracks. So depending on what you're doing, if you go up the different tracks, you can get different things, more workers or more just whatever. But you're getting these citizens, I want to say is what they're called. Because if you gain citizens and then you have there's the one track where you have all the books. If you do that, you multiply that with I think it's how many houses you have built out on the deal. I think here's a multiplier.
Yeah.
You can get a bunch of points as well. This is just one of those that the mechanics of it and everything was just hit right. There's one expansion that is kind of half of it pointless, the intrigue
Yeah.
and whatever. But this board right here in the base game was static. Like when you discarded a chip out of your bag, you could place it on there and gain something. But if you look here, this one's mostly just coins. Like when you do the track that's in the, I think it's one called something intrigue. Was the expansion. I can't remember, but then there was more options on that to gain different stuff. So it made that was a definite improvement. There's actually an expansion out that I don't have right now that I haven't ever picked up. It's the Plague expansion. I'm not
Oh
exactly sure what.
yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot that they released that.
I've never actually. I for some reason haven't picked that up yet, so I'm not exactly sure what it adds. But um, the events of this game was the other thing that was cool because you knew what the event was coming, so you had chance for that round to prep for it, whether it was a famine thing or something that you could prep for. So you always knew what was coming at the end of the round. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is just a really good one, and I know they've come out with different weird things. There was that one. Was it what was the one that they put out? Was it like a legacy?
It was yeah, Orleans Stories, and it
Yeah,
was so good.
and it
It was,
really tanked.
it was so bad.
Yeah, but yeah, this one, everybody has the same boards, but then when you get the technologies, you have your own little things that you can only use, and
Yeah.
that's a really big part of the game as well. But so anyway, like I said, it's 11 years old. There's like I said, just this last year there was another expansion for it. I don't know what their plans are down the road for it, but this one's always going to be up here high for me because it's just hits the sweet spot.
Yeah. No, this one is very solid. I think kind of in terms of what I want from Euros, I don't really like the almost the meta that this game has. Uh, but that's really only a problem if you're playing it all the time,
Right.
which I definitely am not. But yeah, I would always jump into a game of this. It's extremely solid.
Oh.
All right. And the last one for this segment, number 21, was the one that was the same. This was 21 last year, and which is actually very nice because it was new last year. And I've actually been playing more of this, and my girlfriend got me a very sexy Lazy Susan for it that makes this game even better, and that is Dominion.
Yeah.
Dominion, man, is just, especially because I've been playing a lot of the expansions lately. Like I just played Plunder, and that's an extremely solid one. So I'm slowly catching up on the millions of expansions that this game has. But if you want just a pure deck builder, take a look at my list. Um, as for pure deck building, this is the best one, I'd say, just because of the sheer amount of content that it has. In gameplay, like I think there are others that do some that are a little bit unique, like Shards of Infinity is a little bit unique in the way that cards ramp up as you get like the shard resource as that increases, cards get better. But I think what edges out all of the other ones is longevity and variety. Like you're not going to get any better game that will give you that amount of um what is this picture? Like half of it's about these whatever these people like looking at
Looks
their
like it's
phones.
Korean. It looks like it's
Yeah,
Korean.
it's like it's something like that, but it's what a weird choice. Anyway, uh the amount of combos that you're gonna get from the market is gonna give you a completely different feeling every single time you play. Um And that's part of the fun. Like typically true deck builders, this like years ago, this would have never been on my list because I was like pure deck building was never fun for me. But every time I'm playing this game, whenever I draw my new hand at the end of my turn, I'm always kind of excited to where it's like, ooh, am I gonna get like what combo am I gonna get from the deck that I've been building this entire course? Um, it is never super long. There's a ton of stuff that just comes in with every expansion that is always intriguing. And because what they do in each of the rules is they give you like recommended sets of games to play. And it's like, okay, do you just want to play with content from this expansion? Use these. But then it's like, do you have plunder and intrigue? Do you want to try with those two? Use these. Um, or you can just completely get a randomizer and throw that out there and just see what type of game you're gonna have. But honestly, you can ignore everything and just get the app because the app is really, really good and will probably be cheaper to end up. I think it was like $100 or something to get everything for it. but even if you don't want to pay the money, they have like a daily game you can play that will throw in stuff from the expansions, which is really neat because that will kind of give you a taste of what comes from something. It's like, oh, this came from the Seaside expansion. I really like that, so I'll just buy that expansion in the app. So that is another way you can test it out. So I mean, what's to say about Dominion? I actually one thing I will say that I always hear people shit on. I really like the art for this game.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people shit on it, and I don't know why. I've definitely seen worse art in games, but I think the people look a little bit weird. But overall, I think it just gives me old, like old Renaissance, old fantasy art, which like I mean, obviously it's subjective, but yeah, I don't mind it. So yeah, that's my number 21, Dominion.
Yeah, good choice. I've only ever played the base game of this way back in the day, and
Really?
I never really. I mean, it was good. It was fine. I
Yeah,
like deck building, but I think I went Thunderstone Quest or not. It was Thunderstone. I moved on from this pretty quick to
gotcha.
jump into that.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because I played this because my mom had a friend who brought it over one day and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'll play it. I've never played it before." And I was like hooked. I'm like, "Oh man, yeah, this just really works for me." So I'm playing catch up even though there's other deck builders that I mean that are tied with something else. I know some people like deck building when it's part of other systems, worker placement or whatever, but I don't know. Other pure deck builders have always just been fine to me. I've tried
Yeah.
Ascension, I've tried Shards of Infinity, Star Realms, and Hero Realms. All of them are just okay, but Dominion just, I think it's because I'm able to pick any type of set I want to put in that market.
Well, and I think there's a big difference in this too, because all those other games you mentioned, you're trying to. I mean, it's very like 1v1 competitive, and
That's true.
you're trying to kill them on some of those games and stuff. This one, you're just trying to be the most efficient and try to get the
The
you
most
know
points.
right.
Yeah, no,
So
that's a good point. And also this isn't done by Wise Wizard Games, the sham of a company that is now.
so sad. Okay.
So yeah, that's my 21 Dominion.
All right. My number 21 was number 22 last year and was 17 the year before that. This is a game that is on nobody's top 100 list. Like
It's
nobody's.
Resident Evil, the deck building game again.
No.
You put it on twice.
No. But this one's one that I actually have played with you, and I had trouble beating it for the longest time until you and your ex came over and we finally
Yeah, now
beat
we're not
the
going to win
first one.
games anymore.
I know, fuck.
Hey,
But
Kat, do you want to? Yeah, I know we hate each other now, but we need to beat this game. Can you just show up?
but anyway, that's Fire Team Zero. Um,
Oh, this is not the game I was thinking of. I was thinking it was for some reason Thanos
oh
Rising.
God, 21. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. I forgot. I for sure thought this was going to be off your list.
No, gosh, no. This will always be on my list. I love this game. And then what's even cooler is, and I was looking it up because I'm part of Facebook groups and stuff. Um, SBG Editions. It's a board game company. They actually bought the rights and they're doing a reboot and expansions and everything for it now. So it's they said in
No, okay.
2026 they're going to be running a crowdfunding campaign. But
God, well, I was wondering because I remember you bringing that up, and I thought it was like them gauging interest
no, they're
or like,
actually they are doing it. They're
okay,
getting a lot of they've gotten onto the Fire Team Zero Facebook pages because I'm part of those, and they're actually asking like, hey, what's some cool stuff we might be able to change, or what's some cool stuff you want to see, expansion wise added to it, stuff like that.
nice.
So
Well, I might look
here's
into that because if it's going to be like because this game, I'll let you talk about it. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I just hope that the new stuff they create or there's a way that they can integrate it into what I already have because I have like everything for this game
Yeah, yeah.
already and I don't want to have to like rebuy everything. The one thing I think that they could do is make it maybe do some of the audio narration kind of like because they had that with this one. Emergent Games had that and it was these like MP3 files, that you could do. And
Yeah.
then there was even a disc, a CD with this and stuff. But this is one of those games, that it has multi-use cards. Your hand is your life, all this different stuff. You can play it on other people's turns to help to give other people benefits and stuff. But there's these different scenarios you play through. The monsters are constantly spawning. It's just a constant barrage of enemies. And there's these different expansions. So like it takes place, it's an alternate World War II universe where hell is these monsters have coming up from hell and you're battling them off and stuff. So, but there's like the different settings around the World War II world. So there's an Africa cycle, a European cycle that has new monster families and all that stuff, but you can mix them up replayability wise, and you can just play the same scenarios but pick a different monster family. So then you have all these different monsters to go against and stuff like that. And your characters can level up as you play through the little campaign. And it's not like a long campaign; it's just a handful of games. But yeah, I mean, it's the one mechanic, with the coin. I know that's kind of a deal. I don't know if that's even going to be part of the reboot thing because that's
I was about to say, like maybe the reboot will get rid of it.
right. But what happened pretty much is if the coin was on the head side, if somebody died, then you'd flip it over to tails and then to get revived. But then if it was tails and somebody died, then you lost.
Yeah.
So you just had to kind of do that. But the other ingenious thing is as the further along the track you went of this, the monsters would get upgrade cards. So the monsters would get more powerful and change. So the replayability of this game, even though the scenarios stay the same, the replayability, being able to choose the monster family and having the different upgrades come out of different deals, like that first scenario with those weird spiderly looking things that we played. One of the cards came out and it was like, okay, when you kill this, they explode with acid now, and so if you're adjacent, you're going to take damage. It's just all this different stuff. Yeah. And but yeah, I mean, this one just, I don't know, man. It's just I really really enjoy this game, and having the World War II aspect, but then just the horror aspect of it too, and the miniatures are nicely done, and everything. I mean, I'm excited to see what SBG does with this reboot, and see how it changes, what they add to it, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm excited to see what they do as well. Who's that company?
SBG Games, I don't know. I was going to look and see what else they've done because they have another crowdfunding campaign that the Facebook page was talking about, saying that they're doing Ascendia Seasons of Thargos. That's one that they're currently doing, like fulfilling right now. But I don't know other than that. But SBG Games
No idea.
is a publisher. SBG, Serious Business Games is what SBG stands for. And they've done Cursed Empire, Battle Mages, Guilds of Kerner, Card Sharks. Nothing like super crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're going to try to bring some stuff out. We'll see what it does. I mean, if it sucks and looks shitty, at least I have everything for the original still.
That's true.
But yeah, if they do an upgrade pack or do something like that, then I'll be all in for it. So
cool.
So yeah, that's choice. My number 21.
Nice. All right, everyone. That is it. Just 2 more segments left to go before we're done with our top 100. And yeah, it's gonna be a banger of the next 2 videos. I'm excited. So that's it. Stick around for the rest of the top 100. Let us know what you think of these games in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.